Have you ever agreed to something with a vague yeah and then regretted it? Most people don't know how to respond to a request, so they default to things like politeness, avoidance, or fake yeses that quietly breed things like resentment. Today I'm going to show you the 4 simple ways to respond like a grown-up. This is the third video in the series on Basic Linguistic Acts. Understanding these 4 ways builds clarity, trust, and cooperation in every area of your life. And I promise that things will get much better for you when you apply these 4 responses. In my business, if someone didn't respond clearly, things went sideways real fast, safety was compromised or project stalled, and the team stood around because someone gave a maybe instead of a clear yes or no. It led to things like mistrust, poor team cohesion, and no real intention behind the outcomes. So learning these 4 responses became a tool I wish I had learned 20 years earlier, not just in my business, but in life in general. So in this video, we're going to walk through them and break down why vague replies cause more harm than you think, and show you how to stop holding promises that you never made. Now, before that, on the last video, I showed you how most people suck at making requests. They hint, they hope, they guilt trip, and then they get frustrated, resentful, resigned, or anxious when nothing changes. In that video, I said there was another half to the story. This is it. A request is only half of the equation. The other half is your response to a request. And this is where things often fall apart because most people never learned how to respond properly. They default to silence, as we said, vagueness and fake yeses, awkward nods, or just straight up avoidance. Let's fix that. There are only 4 legitimate responses to a request. That's it. And we're going to play with a whiteboard for this one as we go along. Number 1 is yes, which is a clear commitment. Number 2 is no, a clear boundary. Number 3 is a counteroffer or a negotiation. I can't do that, but you know what I can do? I can do this. And number 4 is a commitment to commit later. Let me check on things and I'll get back to you by... Now, it's very important on this last point that a when is agreed on. Otherwise, there's a risk of staying in a loop of uncertainty. Everything else outside of these 4 responses, like maybe, I'll get back to you, shouldn't be a problem, politeness or silence, even a thumbs up emoji in a text message, all of these things, none of them are clear responses. It's avoidance, it's dragging your feet, and what's worse, often the person making the request hears a promise, but it's a slippery promise. So why does all this matter? Clean responses, they do a few things, very powerful things. They build trust, they clear assumptions, they prevent frustration and second guessing. They remove uncertainty, and they protect your time, your energy, and your word. If you say yes and don't deliver, you weaken your credibility. Because when you say yes, it is heard by the other person making the request. It's heard as a promise. And when you say no, cleanly and respectfully, you actually strengthen the relationship. On a slippery promise, let's get into that. Let me offer why it's important to respond clearly. When we are vague, we leave space for breakdowns in the relationship, these constant interruptions, because we have given what's called a slippery promise. Now, what is a slippery promise? It's when we hear things as a yes. So let's play this out in an example. Somebody makes a request, like me, for instance. Can you get me the report by the end of the week? And you say, I'll try. Let me get back to you, but it shouldn't be a problem. But in reality, you had no intention of following through. It doesn't mean that you won't. However, the intention was not there. It was communicated as such because intention is not vague. I'll try. Let me get back to you. but it shouldn't be a problem. Now, that's not intentful. Maybe you said it this way because you felt guilty or pressured, or just wanted to end the conversation. Or maybe you just didn't want to commit. You were distracted, overly busy at the time. What's the problem with this? You've unknowingly trapped yourself because now you're holding a promise that was never really meant. It's slippery. Sounds like a commitment, but you don't really own it. And then guess what happens afterwards? You break the promise. Trust gets damaged, and both of you and the other person leave the interaction worse off. This is a classic situation in both personal and professional relationships. Let's refer back to the above example, and I'm going to role play it out. I ask you, can you get me the report? Can you get the report to me by the end of the week? And your response is, I'll try. Let me get back to you, but it shouldn't be a problem. We didn't hear any of these. However, in my listening, I heard a yes. Can you see how it's easy for a problem to have come up for you? Anything could be a problem. The traffic, the weather, your neighbour's auntie's dog died. Anything to justify you not having delivered. And you can see how not getting back to me also can be justified. I was going to, but something came up. Now, it could be one of the many problems that life serves us. And this happens everywhere. This happens all the time in our communication. It all turns into a minestrone soup of denial, justifications and blame, further enhancing this broth of uncertainty. You may not logically know why the relationship is now diluted by this soup, but you feel it, you taste it. And the evidence is how our behaviours around the situation and each other have changed. Remember, there are two sides to this story because there is a responsibility on the person making the request. In this example, me, and the person also agreeing to it. If you have watched the previous video in the series, you will see that the request I made was not clear. It was a sloppy request and it didn't really follow the 5 steps. If you want to learn those 5 steps, the link to that video is in the description. Actually, what I'm going to do is, let me put them up. So excuse the handwriting, but I was just talking about the previous video. Now, how a powerful request is made. These are the 5 steps. We will go through them. We'll go through them soon again. So I was talking about my sloppy request, which led to a slippery promise. So I want to go back to that example now, and I want to break it down even further. Starting with the sloppy request. I asked you, can you get me that report by the end of the week? Or can you get that report to me by the end of the week? Now, you could be thinking, what report? I'm working on 4 different reports, and he wants me to send me what report? Now, how do you want it? Email, physical, verbal, sent by a pigeon? By when exactly? The end of the week is what I said. Is that Thursday afternoon? Is it Friday? Is it before lunch on Friday or after lunch on Friday? Why do you want it? You know, why is this report so important? This isn't the military where it's a need-to-know basis. All of this self-chatter, all of this talk is going on, most likely with you not even being aware of it. And it's done in a different way, of course. If I communicated why it's important to have the Johnson report by 1 p.m. on Friday because they're going to be reviewing it and then get back to us with a decision by 5 p.m. Now there is a strong chance my request is going to get priority. You have all of the information that you need. So you're either going to say yes, or you're going to say no, or you're going to say, I'm away for the next 2 days. Can I put it together and have Peter send it to you on Friday morning? Counter offer. Or you're going to say, give me until the end of today to confirm because I want to make sure I can get it done. At the end of the day, we clarify a time and we make it happen. So do you see how much clearer everything is by doing this? I want to now talk about responsibility. And there are 2 points that I want to make. When you make a request, the responsibility is on you to make it clear, following these 5 steps. So if you, as the person receiving the request, receive an unclear or a sloppy request, ask for more information. Because sloppy requests, what they do is they create those slippery promises we were talking about. The second point is, if you respond to a request, remember that it is your responsibility on how you now follow through. Just because you received a slippery request, it doesn't mean that you give a sloppy promise. While on this, I want to add an all-time classic that has become integrated into many home relationships out there. Many men would relate to this, and I'm sharing it just for common humour and because I'm a man that has experienced it many, many times. This is how it sounds. My wife would ask me, "Can you fix that loose door handle?" My response, "Sure, I'm going to get around to it." 6 months later, "It's been months. I keep asking you to fix that damn door handle. I said I will do it, I just didn't say when." It all goes downhill from there. So does it sound familiar? Sloppy request, slippery promise, and a shitty door handle. So remember to listen for responses that are vague. Things like, "I should be able to get around to it sometime. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you." And like I said earlier, even a thumbs up emoji can be interpreted as a yes, but it isn't. For me, the thumbs up simply means I acknowledge your message. It's not a yes. Lastly, there's my favourite deflection here in Australia. "Yeah, nah, maybe, should be right." Clear as mud. So when you learn these 4 responses, something pretty powerful happens because you stop expecting people to read your mind, you make sure your request is clear, you stop assuming that silence means yes, and you stop taking things personally when someone says no. Clarity replaces confusion and power replaces passivity. And responding this way means you become assertive in your communication instead of needing to be nice. Above all, you're no longer trapped in emotional guesswork. And that there, for me, is freedom. So here is your challenge for the week. If you haven't already, I'd like you to watch the video on requests so you can have more context on all this. Then I'd like for you to practice using all 4 responses, especially no. Don't leave people hanging. You don't like it, so why do it? And when someone makes a request of you or to you, give them clarity, don't give them confusion. Also, when you receive a request, take a moment and check in. Are you about to say yes because you mean it or because you're trying to avoid discomfort? Be honest, be clear, be clean. So let's wrap this up. These 4 responses are simple. However, most people avoid them their whole life. And it costs them trust, energy and peace of mind. So say yes like you mean it. Say no without guilt. Counter offer or negotiate when you need to. And if you require more information or if you require more time, say so. Before I leave you, I've mentioned promises a lot. In the next video of the series, I'm going to be diving deep into what a promise is, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like, and how we've turned it into another one of those buzzwords that mean nothing for so many people. Looking forward to this video because it is a very powerful word, and once we integrate it with this stuff, things really change. I'm Filimon, this is Functional Chaos. My request to you is to subscribe to the channel, or better yet, just practice. And remember, you don't need to always say yes. Just be clear in what you say. Take what you will.